Well, hello and welcome to another Faith, Philosophy and Life with me, Mr. Shelton. Behind me then are three terms that I am quite convinced you already know, but not Zolk from Global. Zolk from Global is my friend. He's a mysterious little alien that you cannot see, you cannot hear, and you cannot experience. And I'm the only person who is able to speak with him. Weird, you may think? Well, possibly. But I'd like you to think of a question that you'd like to ask Zolk. So maybe write a question down on a bit of paper, have a think about that, because here's our cheesy intro music. Okay, I wonder what questions you came up that you'd like to ask Zolk. Obviously you'd need to ask me and I'll ask Zolk for you. People normally ask, does he have any family and what's it like on the planet Global? The thing is, if you've got a question written down, you're a believer. You are someone who believes that Zolk exists, because if you didn't believe that Zolk exists, then you wouldn't be writing a question down for him. Now, let's say, for example, you weren't sure if Zolk existed or not. You might write a question down, but you might not believe the answer to which I may give you about him. Now, if, for example, you were in a class and there were three people in the class, and I was to point to someone, I say, I'll prove to you that Zolk exists. And if you believe that it was Zolk, you might say, I don't need to prove it, so just don't need to do anything. If you didn't believe there was a little alien called Zolk that lived on the planet Global in the classroom, then no matter what I did to try and prove it, you wouldn't believe it. You'd be saying, I don't accept it anyway. The only time that you're going to be persuaded is if you're not sure. And this is the same as belief in God. So there's three terms here that we need to be aware of. There's theist. That's the middle one on that table. Theist is someone who believes in God. I'm not saying that the Judeo-Christian God, they just have a belief in a higher being. You've got atheist, which is someone who doesn't believe in God. And then you've got an agnostic who's not sure, that's waiting for evidence. So it may be worth you just being aware of those terms. If you're not aware of what they mean, then do make a note of them in your book. So atheist, someone who doesn't believe in God. Theist, someone who does believe in God. And agnostic, someone who just isn't sure. Our title today then is Not Believing in God? ? And today we're going to explore reasons why people might have for being atheists. Okay, so we're going to explore reasons why people might be atheists. It's going to be a good outcome if we can retell reasons why some people do not believe in God. It's going to be great if we can explain two or more reasons of that, and even better if we can come up with some potential responses to those people as well, thinking if they're good or bad arguments. Today then we've looked at some key words. We're going to look at some reasons, some media clip we're going to watch, and then you're going to create a script, which obviously if you're doing this, FaceTiming it with somebody else at the same time, then you can do that together. Here are some more key terms. Only write down the ones that you don't know. I'm going to go over these in a moment for you. Okay, so you've got omnipotent, which is all powerful, omniscient, which is all knowing, omnibenevolent, which is all loving, and omnipresent, which is everywhere. Now, Christians would believe that God is all of those things. God is omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent, and omnipresent. But if God's all those things, then why does evil still exist? If God's all-knowing, he would be aware that evil happens, and he'd want to stop it, surely. If God's all powerful, he's strong enough to stop it because he's all powerful. So why doesn't he? If God's all loving, he would want to stop it. But he doesn't. So does that mean God's not loving? Or maybe God doesn't know about it, but he loves everyone and he is powerful enough to do it. He just is a little bit forgetful. Or maybe God's not very powerful at all. And if he's not powerful, then maybe he knows about it and he loves people. He wants to stop it, but he physically can't. Or maybe God just doesn't love people. He's strong enough to do it. He knows it's happening, but he's just quite harsh. See, that is what is known as the problem of evil. God could stop it, but he chooses not to. So what I'd like you to do in your book now is to do a little mind map to start off with. Why may some people not believe in that God? In that God who's omniscient, omnibenevolent, omnipotent and omnipresent. Why may some people not believe in that God? Do that mind map now. Well, I hope you've got some ideas down. Maybe share some of those with someone in your family. See if you can add any more ideas down it as well. What I'd like you to do now you've got a list of reasons why people might not believe in God, is I'd like you to choose a second colour and try and come up with a solution to those problems. So an atheist might say, well, they don't believe in the God because there's so much suffering in the world. Well, what could a response be to that from a theist viewpoint? So give that a go and then come back to me. Okay, so I'm going to go through some ideas now, and you can put some of these down as well around your mind map. Again, make sure that you have try to come up with a counter argument for it as well. That's the stretch task in this. So scientific explanations of the world can lead people to doubt that God exists. You can put that around your mind map and then maybe try and come up with a solution to that. Then come back to me when you're done. I'm just going to keep moving on. The next one then is the Big Bang and evolution are just slightly more believable maybe than God creating the world in 7 days. The next one is the classic, if God's good, why is there so much suffering in the world? Natural evil. Okay, did God create earthquakes and floods and drought and disease? Is that a reason why there's no God? Moral evil, war, starvation. Neurology, brain science, challenges ideas about life after death. If the brain just really shuts down after death, then how do you know any sort of experiences that people claim to have from beyond the grave are true? You've got miracles that we've talked about last time. They have natural explanations today, so what could be a counter argument for that? Unanswered prayers. Okay, some people just pray and pray and pray, and God doesn't answer their prayers, doesn't say yes to them. Is that a reason for that could be a reason for not believing in God? So again, what might a theist say to an atheist who said that? And lastly then, if God's omnipotent, omniscient and omnibenevolent, why do just bad things happen? Why do bad things happen? So we said it would be good if we could retell reasons why some people do not believe in God. It'd be great if we could explain 2 or more of these reasons, and even better if we can come up with some potential responses to these and think if they're good or not, and hopefully around your mind map you have done that. So the next thing I'm going to show you is an interview that I found between a theist, an American pastor, and atheists, why they don't believe in God. I'd like you to watch this. It is quite long, it's about 9 minutes, so just watch what you want for it and then skip ahead towards the end of the video, at the end of this clip, while I go over the next task. So watch this so you've got a flavour of it, and then say skip ahead, and then you come back to me.
I don't personally believe, right? But it's like, that doesn't mean that we can't live the same life.
Hey there, I'm Erica Campbell. I'm a singer, a songwriter. I'm a mom, a wife, and all-around cool chick. So today I'm sitting down with people from different ends of the faith spectrum. We're just gonna have a healthy conversation. Can't wait to get into it. I'm really excited.
My name is Josh, and I am a former Christian.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I identify as an atheist.
My name is Nina, and I identify as agnostic.
I was raised in a very strict Mormon household. I was the very first one in my family to leave the church. I have been a happy non-believer ever since.
I guess technically I was raised in the Catholic faith, kind of by default. We went to church sometimes on Christmas, usually like weddings or funerals, something like that.
I grew up lightly Hindu. We're like culturally Hindu, but I kind of came to the conclusion that like whether or not there is a God or there isn't a God, like it has no bearing on like how I live my life.
I don't think she'll be able to in any way convert me suddenly back.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous.
Like I hope I don't say anything to offend her.
Hey,
Hey there,
I'm Josh.
I'm Erica.
I'm Emily.
Erica.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hey.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
And Nina?
Yes, I'm Nina.
Erica, nice to meet you. So I'm a Christian. How would you identify?
Atheist,
Atheist.
non-believer,
So do you believe that like there's no God or there's something out there and you don't know what it is?
nothing.
Nothing.
I identify as an atheist.
If like agnosticism and atheism is like a spectrum, I'm like somewhere in it.
I think that when we die, it's lights out, and that's the blissful end to all of it.
Is that bliss though? With lights
It
out?
is.
So let me ask you a question. What do you believe exists beyond the universe? It's like the area where our minds kind of exist, not the human, not the tangible.
I don't think that that exists either.
You don't?
I don't. I think that everything that exists is what exists right here, right now, in this moment, in your body.
I was raised in the Catholic community. I just remember the first thing we talked about was Adam and Eve, and I just remember being like, that's just like a little story.
Culturally, we're Hindu. Personally, for me, it felt like a lot of the stories of it, they're just like stories. There's a lot of like people with multiple arms and like angels are blue, which is like not real.
So I was raised Mormon. My mom helped run the Relief Society. My dad was a bishop for a long time. My grandpa was a bishop. I was the very first member of my family to walk away from it all.
They
And
respond to that.
not well at first.
I grew up similar to you, but mine was a Pentecostal church called the Church of God in Christ. And my father was a preacher, my mom was over the choir. But there was a lot of things that didn't always make sense to me, like why we were so poor. If you live for Jesus, everything's supposed to work out right, But the same way, I wouldn't doubt love because people have gotten love wrong. And that's kind of how I feel about God. And I think it's very reassuring to me that after this is over, there's something greater. So most people who don't believe there was some, traumatic church experience or some long line of this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense. Okay, y'all don't make sense, so maybe he doesn't make sense.
I do find fault with like Catholicism in general.
We're not really like practicing, so we weren't like praying or like studying or anything. And so I just kind of like fell away from that as a religion.
I got kicked out of Sunday school because I was arguing with the teacher about the age of the earth. In 6 days, 6,000 years, I'm like, but dinosaurs.
I grew up in a church where secular music was a saying, everybody was the devil, you can't interact, it's gonna infiltrate you.
My mom, her favorite saying growing up was that the devil gets to you in little ways.
Yes.
Like the first time I wanted a mohawk at 9 years old, she was like, devil gets to you through your hair. Like,
Yeah.
I got really lucky and I have like great parents and they were like, be kind, be a good person, like help each other out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I feel like my moral compass
It's good.
I hope so. I think so. I'm working on it.
the core of Mormon belief is the Holy Bible, the King James Version specifically.
Yeah.
Every time I read something, what I saw was a twist for human gain.
I know the same stories and I had the very same questions. And what I feel like, what I know the Bible is, it is all an example of how crazy and chaotic our world is. If you believed in God, what would that look like to you?
I feel like if there was a God, I think it would be something like kind of unimaginable that I couldn't like process as a human being.
Do you believe in life after?
You know, I don't. You know, before I was like, I don't know, maybe like raw energy, like what happens to us when we're dead, like, and nobody knows, and that's the crazy thing, right? And but very recently, actually, my twin brother passed away this summer, and so I've been, thank you, but I've been, you know, like searching for him, and I've been like trying to be kind of like open, like if, you know, if it is like a thing, like please freaking talk to me, you know what I mean? And like I haven't felt it. I haven't felt him. I haven't seen him. And so that kind of for me was like, okay, like he's just dead. And that's, you know, something that I'm just kind of like, okay, like I'm just never gonna see him again. He's still, you know, with me every day, and I think about him every single day. But it's like I just, you know, I was open for it, and I still am. Like if something were to happen or whatever. But like, you know, me thinking about him every day and remembering him and everything that I do, it's like I feel like that for me is like enough. You know.
Every time I look at any form of organized religion, the only thing I see is division. More wars have been fought over religion than anything else. Whereas when I look at a world with no religion, you suddenly, everyone has to own up to just what they are and who they are. They can no longer hide behind and say, well, I won't bake a cake for these gay couple because my religion says that I don't have to. You can't hide behind that.
There's always going to be conflict in religion because religion is man-made. You know, you see these movies and there's always a devil on one shoulder and an angel. I really think that's real. I think there's always a battle for the best of us and the worst of us. If there was one question of God that you could ask if you believed in God, what would you ask?
That's a really hard one.
Is it? Girl, ask everything.
And there would probably be a lot of general just like whys.
But he cares about you, and that's what I know for sure. Yes, you. What makes you happy? What makes you sad?
I feel so small. And like the concept of a God, it feels so big, like I said, and I feel so small, and it seems impossible to me that anything that oversees like our whole world or our whole universe would have time for me.
Absolutely. I think that there's still a lot of questions there. You know what I mean? Even from what you've said, still a lot of questions. And I think that's the best way to be, like to always ask why, the whys of the whys. Why do I feel this way? Why don't I believe? Could I believe again?
Right.
You know, what could cause me to believe again? Because clearly there's something that caused me not to believe. If I told you that I would pray for you, what would you ask me to pray for?
Oh, that's a great question. Probably not for me, but for like my family, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for them to be like well and good and happy.
Yeah.
From my perspective, everything you've said, you can do without any religion. And it's completely freeing for me. The most free I ever felt was the day I walked away and said, I don't have to believe in any of this stuff anymore. Because to me, God, religion, all of it, it's completely superfluous to human existence. You don't need it. You can live a happy, productive, good, charitable life without it.
I believe in, you know, if there's a good, there has to be a bad. You know, we can't always explain some of the complexities and craziness of this world, but I think God brings gravity to it all, to the question.
I love hearing what you have to say. I don't think I necessarily agree with all of it.
So I believe that God knows you, he knows your name, he knows how many hairs are on your head. And your beautiful hair, by the way.
Thank you.
I had to purchase mine. Nevertheless, I think he knows everything about you and wants to know more.
This has been such a great conversation, and you're such a warm, like, I feel really like comfortable here. Yeah, just this has been really great.
Awesome.
It's been amazing talking to you.
Great talking to you, Emily. I will be praying for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So we said it would be good if we could tell reasons why some people do not believe in God. Great if we could explain 2 or more of these reasons, and even better if we come up with some potential responses, and that's the whole point. So this is your sort of final task, which I'm going to leave you with. I want you to create a conversation between 2 people in your book, so a theist and an atheist, arguing about if there isn't a God and how a Christian may respond to that. So use the model that you've just seen, use all of the information around your mind map, and create like a little script for me. That's going to take you to the end of the lesson. Obviously, if you want to work with somebody else, then you can do. Photograph everything you've done today. Please send it through to your teachers because we'd love to see it. And I'm going to leave it there. So thanks very much for your time. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Wash your hands. God bless you. And I'll see you soon.